It begins with a subtle flicker, a ripple of movement just beyond the reach of the fading light, where the forest's edge blurs into mystery. The air is thick with anticipation, as if the trees themselves are holding their breath, waiting for something to emerge from the gloom. Dusk settles over Dutchess County, painting the sky in bruised purples and fiery oranges. The winding road is silent, flanked by ancient trees whose branches knit together, forming a living tunnel. The world is hushed. The only sounds the distant call of an owl and the whisper of wind through the leaves. The woods on either side stand dense and impenetrable, a wall of gnarled trunks and tangled undergrowth that swallows the last rays of sunlight. Moss clings to the bark, and ferns unfurl in the dimness, creating a tapestry of green and shadow. The forest floor is a patchwork of fallen leaves, their edges curling in the cool air. In the deepening gloom, a shadow emerges, tall, lean and silent. It glides between the trees, its outline barely distinguishable from the trunks and branches, as if it were born of the forest itself. The air grows colder, the silence deeper, as the shadow moves with a purpose known only to the wild. With an uncanny grace, the figure steps from the underbrush, its reddish-brown form moving with a fluidity that defies explanation. It seems to absorb the twilight, becoming both part of the landscape and apart from it. The undergrowth parts silently, as if the forest itself is making way for this enigmatic presence. It does not scramble or rush. Instead it glides over obstacles, fallen logs, tangled roots, even a high metal guardrail effortlessly, as if the boundaries of the physical world hold no sway. The shadow's passage leaves no mark, no broken twig or disturbed leaf, only a faint sense of displacement in the air. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the shadow melts back into the forest's embrace, vanishing into the labyrinth of darkness and silence. The trees close ranks behind it, the undergrowth settling as if nothing had passed, yet the atmosphere remains charged with a lingering sense of unease. This is not a scene from a tale of terror, but a recurring phenomenon whispered through the misty hills and quiet valleys of the Hudson Valley, where the land itself seems to breathe secrets. The mist clings to the hills, curling around the trees and drifting through the valleys, carrying with it the memory of things unseen. In these moments the world tilts, and the line between the known and the unknown blurs. The forest becomes a threshold, a place where reality and legend intertwine. The wind stirs the leaves, and the shadows lengthen, as if the woods themselves are alive with ancient stories. The landscape transforms, no longer just a stretch of road or a patch of woods, but a stage for the primal and the impossible, set against the distant glow of civilization. The trees stand sentinel, their branches reaching skyward, guarding the secrets that dwell within. Here the mountains stand as silent witnesses, their slopes shrouded in mist and legend, guarding mysteries as old as the stones themselves. The wind sighs through the pines, carrying with it the echoes of ancient events, the memory of shadows that have always moved at the edge of sight. Stories drift on the wind, carried by the rustle of leaves and the crackle of distant fires, shared not by voices but by the land itself, echoing through empty diners and lonely clearings. The night air is thick with the scent of pine and wood smoke, the silence broken only by the occasional snap of a twig or the distant call of a night bird. In the heart of the Catskills, secluded homes nestle among the rugged hills, their windows reflecting the encroaching dusk, as if watching for something that moves just beyond sight. The forest presses close, its presence felt in every creak of wood and sigh of wind. Sometimes, as the last light fades, a presence lingers at the window, a fleeting shadow, a suggestion of movement that freezes the world in a moment of silent awe. The glass reflects the deepening night, and the forest beyond seems to press closer, as if drawn by the mystery within. From the yard, an immense form looms, stooping to peer through the glass, its silhouette framed by the dying glow of the sun, a visitor from the wild unknown. The air grows heavy, the silence deepens, and the world seems to pause, caught in the gaze of something ancient. Its body, shrouded in dark hair, is etched against the horizon, a living shadow that seems both ancient and otherworldly. The fading light outlines its form, blurring the boundary between the real and the imagined. The encounter is brief, but the impression lingers, etched into the memory of the place itself, as if the walls and windows remember what passed by. The room is left in silence, the shadows stretching long across the floor, holding the memory of the mysterious visitor. No page in any field guide can explain what moves through these woods. It is something that belongs to the realm of myth and shadow, an enigma that defies classification. The books remain closed, their pages silent, unable to capture the essence of what lingers in the twilight. The forest holds its breath. Every rustle, every snap of a twig takes on new meaning, charged with the possibility of the unknown. The leaves tremble, the branches sway, and the shadows deepen, as if the woods themselves are alive with anticipation. In the quiet clearings and shadowed backyards, the presence is felt, an invisible watcher, ancient and powerful, moving unseen among the trees. The grass bends in the breeze, the air tingles with the energy of something just out of sight. Sometimes a smaller shadow appears, peering from the safety of the trees, curiosity flickering in its hidden gaze before it slips away. The undergrowth stirs and the forest seems to close around the fleeting presence, protecting its secrets. Eyes glint from the darkness, watching, measuring, then vanishing as quickly as they appeared, leaving only the memory of their gaze. The night air is thick with the sense of being observed, the woods alive with silent watchers. In the dead of night, the silence is shattered by powerful unseen forces, furniture overturned, the ground trembling with the passage of something immense and unseen. The echoes of these events linger, woven into the fabric of the land. The message is clear, written in the language of the wild: you are not alone. Something ancient and intelligent moves through these woods, watching from the shadows. The darkness presses close, the forest edge alive with possibility. This is the chilling reality of the Hudson Valley's deepest mystery. A shadow at the edge of the woods, forever just out of reach, forever unknown. The night deepens, the mist thickens, and the legend endures, whispered by the land itself, waiting for the next flicker at the edge of the woods. Why here? What makes this stretch of land so extraordinary for the unknown? The Hudson Valley is not merely a scenic expanse, it is a living, breathing tapestry of wild corridors, where nature reigns supreme and mystery lingers in every shadow. Here the land is shaped by ancient forces, its secrets hidden beneath layers of green and mist. Dense forests stretch endlessly, their canopies forming a vaulted cathedral above winding rivers and secluded swamps. At dawn, mist rises from the water, curling through ancient trees and shrouding the land in an ethereal veil. The air is thick with the scent of moss and earth, and every sound is muffled by the dense undergrowth. The rugged peaks of the Catskill Mountains loom to the west, their slopes blanketed in fiery autumn foliage and deep shadowy hollows. These mountains are a fortress of stone and forest, their ridges echoing with the calls of unseen creatures. Rolling hills undulate across Dutchess and Columbia counties, where forests reclaim old fields and wildflowers sway in the breeze. Here the land is a patchwork of meadows and thickets, each corner teeming with life and possibility. To the east, the vast wilderness of the Berkshires rises, a realm of towering trees and hidden glens where the land seems untouched by time. The forest floor is carpeted with ferns and moss, and shafts of sunlight filter through the dense canopy, illuminating the secret world below. In many places the forest has reclaimed what was once open, growing denser and wilder with each passing year. The undergrowth forms a labyrinth of green, where sunlight barely touches the forest floor and shadows stretch long and deep. These are not isolated patches, but a vast network of interconnected wild corridors stretching as far as the eye can see. The land is a living web, each corridor a hidden artery pulsing with life and mystery. Secret trails wind through the undergrowth carved by generations of wildlife. These hidden passageways are marked by the soft prints of deer, the subtle tracks of foxes, and the silent passage of elusive predators. The ancient path of the Appalachian Trail snakes through the heart of this wilderness, a natural artery that pulses with the movement of countless creatures. Its route is lost beneath the whispering leaves, a silent witness to the passage of time and the mysteries that dwell within. Overgrown railroad beds, now swallowed by thick vegetation, form shadowy tunnels through the densest woods. Their iron veins are long forgotten by all but the wild, and the silence is broken only by the rustle of leaves and the distant call of an owl. Rivers and creeks like the mighty Hudson and its countless tributaries wind silently beneath the trees. Their waters reflect the shifting sky and provide silent passage for the creatures of the forest. Otters slipping through the current, herons stalking the shallows, and fish gliding beneath the surface. From the vast Adirondack wilderness to the north, these corridors stretch down through the valley, connecting distant wildlands in a seamless living chain. The land is a continuous expanse, unbroken and wild, where the unknown can move unseen. They reach into the green hills of Connecticut and Massachusetts, where forests spill across borders and the wild knows no boundaries. Here the chorus of frogs and the flutter of wings are the only signs of life. In these woods, silence reigns. The thick trees and underbrush create hidden passages, untouched and unseen, where only the wind and the rustle of leaves break the stillness. The air is alive with the subtle movements of creatures unseen. Life flourishes here in abundance. The forest teems with deer, birds, and small creatures. Chipmunks darting through the undergrowth, woodpeckers drumming on ancient trunks, and foxes slipping through the shadows. Herds of white-tailed deer move silently through the shadows, their presence a constant thread in the fabric of the valley. Their watchful eyes and silent steps are a reminder of the wild's ever-present vigilance. Beavers build their lodges along the riverbanks, wild turkeys forage in clearings, and fish dart through crystal streams. Each species thrives in this hidden world, their lives woven into the endless cycle of the wild. Turtles bask on sunlit logs, their shells glinting in the dappled light, while frogs and salamanders slip through the cool, damp undergrowth. The chorus of amphibians rises at dusk, echoing through the trees. Predators move silently through the underbrush, coyotes, bobcats, and the rare black bear. Their presence is felt in the sudden hush of birds or the fleeting shadow across a moonlit glade, a reminder that the wild is always watching. The biodiversity here is astonishing, plants and animals of every kind, woven together in a delicate, thriving balance. Each corner of the valley is alive with possibility, from the smallest insect to the tallest tree. Secluded valleys lie hidden beneath dense trees, their secrets guarded by the thick canopy and the tangled roots below. In these shadowed hollows, the unexplained finds refuge, and the ordinary gives way to the extraordinary. Vast tracts of uninhabited land stretch to the horizon, where the forest swallows all traces of the outside world. The skyline is but a distant memory, and the wild reigns unchallenged. Tangled thorns and steep ravines form natural barriers, their depths cloaked in perpetual twilight. The air is thick with the scent of moss and earth, and the silence is broken only by the distant call of a hawk or the rustle of a passing animal. Impenetrable wetlands sprawl beneath ancient trees, their waters dark and still. Fallen trunks bridge pools where the unknown might linger, and the surface is broken only by the ripple of a passing otter or the leap of a frog. In the silent, untouched corners of the forest, time seems to stand still. These are the forgotten places where the wild holds sway and the unexplained can endure, where strange calls echo at night and fleeting shapes vanish into the gloom. As dusk falls, the woods become a realm of shadows and secrets. Shafts of sunlight pierce the gloom, illuminating fleeting shapes, sometimes animal, sometimes something more mysterious. In this land of mystery, the wild corridors of the Hudson Valley remain a sanctuary for the extraordinary, a place where the unexplained is always just out of sight, and the wild endures untouched and eternal. The Hudson Valley's deep woods conceal mysteries that go far beyond fleeting shadows. In these ancient forests, the evidence of something extraordinary is woven into the very fabric of the night. The trees stand as silent witnesses, their branches arching overhead, sheltering secrets that stir when the sun disappears. As darkness falls, the woods come alive with a symphony of sounds, terrifying, unidentifiable, and utterly alien. The silence is shattered by blood-curdling screams that echo through the trees, followed by deep, guttural growls that seem to vibrate through the earth itself. The animals of the forest react in kind. Deer freeze in place, their ears twitching at every distant cry, while raccoons and foxes slink deeper into the undergrowth, seeking shelter from whatever prowls the night. These are not the familiar howls of coyotes or the hoots of owls. Sometimes the calls mimic other animals, a bird's song that is just slightly off, a dog's bark that is too deep, too resonant, as if something is imitating the forest's natural inhabitants. Squirrels chatter nervously, their tails flicking as they sense the presence of something unnatural. Even the insects seem to hush, the usual chorus of crickets and cicadas falling silent in anticipation. At times, the sounds are subtle, complex patterns of whistles exchanged between unseen presences, as if the forest itself is communicating in a language unknown to humans. The air grows thick with anticipation, every rustle and whisper hinting at intelligence lurking just beyond sight. Small mammals pause mid-scurry, their noses twitching, as if deciphering the meaning behind the strange signals. The forest floor trembles with the heavy thud of something massive moving just out of view. Branches snap with a force that suggests immense strength, and the undergrowth rustles as unseen shapes pass through the darkness. Birds take flight in sudden bursts, startled from their perches, while rabbits dart for cover, their hearts pounding in the hush that follows. Sometimes the night is punctuated by the sharp crack of a tree limb breaking, or the unnerving clack of rocks being struck together, a primitive, chilling message that reverberates through the valley. The forest's usual inhabitants, foxes, possums, and even the ever-watchful owls, fall silent, their instincts warning them to stay hidden until the danger passes. In the morning light, the forest reveals its secrets. Strange footprints appear in the mud, too large and deep for any known animal. Odd marks scar the ground, and sometimes the remains of animals are found, deer with necks cleanly broken, legs missing, or skulls left in clearings as if placed with intent. The scavengers, crows, vultures and beetles, circle these sites warily, as if sensing that these kills are not the work of ordinary predators. These are not the kills of ordinary predators. The precision and brutality suggest something else, something that marks its territory with chilling efficiency. The usual scavengers approach with caution, picking at the remains only after long, wary observation, as if the forest itself warns them to keep their distance. Occasionally the forest erupts in chaos. Massive trees crash to the ground, thrown or toppled by unseen forces. The air vibrates with low-frequency rumbles, a sound that leaves the woods themselves trembling. Flocks of birds scatter in panic, and the smaller creatures burrow deeper, seeking safety from the unseen turmoil. And then, without warning, a silent blue light pierces the night sky, illuminating the treetops in an otherworldly glow. The forest falls silent as if holding its breath, and the sense of being watched grows overwhelming. Even the most nocturnal animals, bats, owls and flying squirrels, pause in their nightly routines, unsettled by the unnatural illumination. In these woods the unknown reigns. Every sound, every sign, every mysterious happening is a reminder that the deep forests of the Hudson Valley hold secrets that defy explanation, secrets that belong to the wild and to something that is not yet ready to be found. In the heart of the Hudson Valley, where the land breathes with ancient secrets, a legend took root long before it ever had a name. The story begins not with words, but with the hush of twilight settling over tangled woods and the slow, patient growth of moss on stone. In these wild places signs appeared. Strange tracks pressed into the mud, fur caught on thorns, and branches snapped where no ordinary creature could reach. At night a shadow would glide between the trees, silent, but for the rustle of leaves and the distant call of a whip-poor-will. The land itself seemed to whisper of something watching, something old and wild, leaving behind subtle marks and shifting the air with its presence. Sometimes the wind would change without warning, swirling the mist into shapes that vanished when looked at directly, or a reflection would linger in the water long after the ripples had faded. The animals of the forest sensed it too, pausing, listening, then fleeing as if chased by a presence unseen. On certain nights, when the moon hung low and the fog crept along the river bank, a distant howl would echo through the valley, neither wolf nor wind, but something older. The legend grew in the hush of dawn and the hush of dusk, in the patterns left behind, footprints circling hidden springs, stones and feathers arranged as if by unseen hands. Trails would end abruptly in the middle of a clearing, as if the creature had simply melted into the morning mist. Trees bore strange marks, and spiderwebs glistened with dew, undisturbed by any passing animal. Sometimes the forest would fall utterly silent, as if holding its breath, and a shaft of sunlight would reveal a patch of ground where nothing dared tread. The land itself seemed to remember, holding the legend in the balance of river stones and the hush beneath ancient roots. The Kinderhook Creature became a story told by the wind and the water, a presence felt in the shifting shadows and the sudden, inexplicable movement in the grass. Its legend was not born from a single moment, but from countless small mysteries, tracks that vanished, eyes that glimmered and disappeared, and the sense that something watched from just beyond the veil of mist. In this way, the Kinderhook Creature became woven into the very fabric of the Hudson Valley, a legend born from the land itself, enduring in every whisper of wind and every shadow beneath the trees. Long before the Hudson Valley was marked by the presence of towns and farms, the land itself was alive with stories whispered through the trees and carried on the wind. The ancient forests, rivers and stones were not just scenery, but living participants in a world where every shadow and sound held meaning. Centuries before the word Bigfoot ever echoed through these woods, the original peoples, Algonquin, Iroquois and others, wove a tapestry of lore that explained the mysteries of the wild. Their stories were filled with animal symbolism, natural phenomena and mythic creatures, each embodying the spirit and power of the land. The Algonquin and Iroquois believed the forests were inhabited by beings both seen and unseen, spirits and guardians who moved with the silence of the fog and the swiftness of the deer. The bear, for example, was not just an animal, but a symbol of strength and healing, its presence in dreams or in the undergrowth a sign of protection or warning. The wolf, elusive and clever, was seen as a guide through the unknown, its howl echoing across the valleys as a reminder of the wild's wisdom. The owl, with its silent flight, was a messenger between worlds, its call in the night a sign that the boundaries between the natural and supernatural were thin. These were not mere tales to frighten the young, but deeply held truths woven into the fabric of their understanding of nature, a recognition that the wilderness was alive with powerful, mysterious presences. The Algonquin and Iroquois spoke of the stone giants and stick people, whose domains stretched across the valleys and hills, their presence felt in the rustle of leaves and the sudden hush that falls over the woods at dusk. The stone giants, massive and silent, were said to be born from the earth itself, their bodies blending with boulders and cliffs. When thunder rumbled or stones tumbled down a hillside, it was believed to be the movement of these ancient guardians, reminding all of their enduring watch. The stick people, slender and quick, were spirits of the trees and undergrowth, rarely seen but often sensed. When branches snapped or shadows flickered at the edge of vision, it was said to be their doing, playful, sometimes mischievous, but always a sign to tread carefully and respect the wild. In some traditions, these forest giants were honoured as elder brothers, guardians of the wild places, deserving of respect and careful distance. Offerings of stones, feathers and berries were left at the base of great trees, carried away by the wind or the rain as gifts to the unseen. The Algonquin and Iroquois also told of the thunderbird, a mighty spirit whose wings brought storms and whose eyes flashed with lightning. When the sky darkened and rain swept through the forest, it was the thunderbird's power at work, a reminder of the balance between creation and destruction. Yet not all stories were gentle. In the far northeast, the Mi'kmaq told of the Gugu, a monstrous presence, vast and wild, whose hunger was legendary and whose wrath was feared. The Gugu was said to devour those who strayed too far from the safety of the hearth, a force of nature as relentless as the winter wind. Such tales were warnings, reminders of the wild's power and the thin line between the known and the unknowable. The wind howling through twisted branches, the sudden silence before a storm, the trembling of the earth, each was a sign that the world was alive with forces beyond human understanding. When settlers from distant shores arrived, they too felt the weight of the forest's mysteries. They brought with them their own fears of witches, spirits, and the unknown, but soon found the land's secrets were deeper than any they had imagined. The forest seemed to watch, to listen, to hold its breath as newcomers set foot beneath its boughs. Some settlers recorded strange happenings, unexplained sounds, stones hurled from the darkness, fleeting glimpses of something immense moving just beyond the firelight. These were not tales of myth, but matter-of-fact accounts, entries in journals, notes passed between wary neighbours. One story from the 1750s, during the chaos of the French and Indian War, stands out. Soldiers reported being attacked by creatures they first mistook for bears. Yet these beings stood upright, hurled stones with uncanny force, and vanished into the shadows as quickly as they appeared. The forest, it seemed, was home to something neither fully animal nor spirit, but a presence that defied explanation. The moonlit path, the sudden rustle in the undergrowth, the heavy silence of twilight, all became part of a living memory, a tapestry of encounters with the unknown. The stories form a continuous thread, binding together the wisdom of the first peoples and the wonder of those who came after. The names may change, Gugu, Wildman, Kinderhook Creature, Bigfoot, but the essence remains, a great shadowy presence, forever part of the deep woods. It is a reminder that the Hudson Valley's forests are not empty but alive with stories, secrets and the possibility of the extraordinary. Echoes of a world where myth and nature are one and the same. In the heart of the Hudson Valley, the wild remains untouched, its secrets hidden beneath layers of moss, leaf litter, and the hush of ancient trees. Here the environment itself becomes a silent witness, offering subtle clues to the presence of something extraordinary. The most striking evidence is found in the earth. Massive footprints pressed deep into the mud, their size and depth far exceeding those of any known animal in the region. The prints appear in places where the ground is soft and undisturbed, often along the banks of hidden creeks or in the shadowy undergrowth. Sometimes a series of these prints stretches across a muddy creek bed, each step spaced in long, purposeful strides. The impressions are crisp, the edges sharp, as if made only moments before, untouched by wind or rain. These tracks are not the work of ordinary wildlife. The footprints display unique anatomical features: a flexible mid-tarsal break, splayed toes and deep heel impressions, suggesting a creature built for silent, efficient movement through dense forest. Casts collected from these wild places reveal a bewildering variety of shapes and sizes. Some prints show 3 toes, others 5, each with distinct patterns and widths, hinting at unknown variations among the creatures that roam these woods. The inconsistency in toe number and shape deepens the enigma. Some tracks are wide and flat, others narrow and arched, as if different individuals or perhaps even different species have passed through, each leaving their own signature in the mud. Beyond the obvious footprints, the forest floor sometimes reveals more delicate signs. Subtle impressions, drag marks or patterns in the leaves that suggest the passage of a large animal moving with care. These traces often vanish into the undergrowth, swallowed by the wild. Occasionally a small handprint appears in the mud, 5 fingers clearly defined. The print is delicate, as if left by a cautious juvenile creature, its presence fleeting and easily missed among the tangle of roots and ferns. These rare handprints, when found, suggest the existence of family groups or young animals moving quietly through the woods, their traces quickly reclaimed by the living forest. In secluded glades, the environment offers further clues. Stick structures appear, branches arranged in deliberate patterns, sometimes forming arches, X's or teepee-like shapes. These constructions stand out against the natural chaos, their purpose unknown. These are not random piles. Branches are bent and woven together, large limbs balanced in ways that defy the wind or the work of ordinary animals. The structures seem to mark territory, create boundaries, or perhaps serve as silent messages within the animal world. At the edge of game trails, stick markers stand as signposts, their meaning lost to human understanding, but perhaps clear to the creatures that pass by. The forest canopy above filters the light, casting shifting patterns on these enigmatic symbols. Sometimes a faint path winds through the thicket, its course too subtle for human eyes, but clear in the way the undergrowth is pressed down, the moss disturbed and the ferns parted. These trails hint at regular passage by something large and careful, moving with purpose through the wild. Yet the most haunting evidence is not always visible. In certain clearings, a sudden, overwhelming stench saturates the air, stopping animals in their tracks and leaving a sense of unease that lingers long after the source has vanished. This odour is unlike anything else in the wild. It is a sickening blend of rotting vegetation, wet fur, and something wholly unnatural, an aroma that clings to the air and marks the passage of a powerful animal. The smell arrives suddenly, lingering in the stillness. Forest animals freeze, their senses alert, as if aware of an unseen presence moving through the mist. Some believe this stench is a defense mechanism, a powerful secretion released when the creature is startled, much like a skunk's spray but far more potent, sending deer and birds fleeing in alarm. The intensity of the odour is so profound that it leaves a lasting impression on the environment, convincing even the most sceptical observer that something biological and unknown has passed through. The final clues are carried on the wind. The forest is alive with sound, deep, resonant howls that roll through the valleys, soft whoops, sharp wood knocks, and rapid chatter-like calls that echo in the night. These sounds are not the calls of known animals. They are powerful, haunting, and often seem to come from nowhere, their source hidden deep within the wild. Sometimes the noises are subtle, barely audible whoops, distant knocks, or a strange rhythmic chatter that some call samurai chatter. The forest listens, and the animals respond, their movements shifting with the unseen presence. All these tracks, smells, and unexplained signs weave together into a tapestry of mystery. The wild holds its secrets close, but the clues left behind, footprints, handprints, stick structures, strange odours, and haunting sounds, suggest that something powerful and elusive moves through the Hudson Valley, leaving only the faintest traces for the world to find. In the heart of the Hudson Valley, the forest breathes in silence, its ancient trees standing as silent witnesses to the drama unfolding beneath their boughs. Here, the mark of a predator is not merely a wound upon flesh, but a ripple through the very fabric of the wild, altering the delicate balance of life. The deer, once bold in their grazing, now move with a nervous energy. Their herds are smaller, their movements cautious, every muscle tensed for flight. They sense a change, an invisible pressure in the air, a new rhythm in the undergrowth. The subtle shift in their behaviour is the first sign. Heads raised, nostrils flaring, bodies poised to flee at the faintest sound. Coyotes, the clever tricksters of the woods, have grown silent. Their calls, once echoing through the night, are now absent. Only the faintest trace of their passage remains, tracks that vanish, dens abandoned, a hush where wild voices once rang. The sudden absence of their yips and howls signals a disruption, a predator whose presence is enough to silence even the most cunning. Turkeys, too, have changed their ways. Their flocks scatter at the slightest sound, their roosts left empty, feathers drifting in the cold morning air. The forest's chorus is muted, as if the land itself is holding its breath. The scattered feathers and abandoned roosts are silent testaments to the fear that now governs their movements. When the balance is broken, the signs are everywhere. Startled deer bolt through the brush, birds scatter in panicked flight, and the trails that once teemed with life now lie empty and still. The sudden synchronized flight of birds and the frantic escape of prey animals reveal the presence of a threat that commands respect and fear. In places where the predator's shadow falls, the woods become unnaturally quiet. The usual symphony of life, chirps, rustles, distant calls, fades into a heavy, watchful silence. This hush is not mere absence, but a warning, a collective response from every creature attuned to the language of survival. Trails once worn by countless paws and hooves are deserted. Dens and burrows stand open, their inhabitants vanished. The night air, once alive with the yips of coyotes, is now thick with anticipation and dread. The emptiness of these paths and shelters speaks of a force that drives all others away. The populations of deer and turkey dwindle, their numbers thinned, not by the slow hand of winter, but by something swift and unseen. Tracks in the snow tell stories of sudden flight, of herds scattered and flocks dispersed. The abrupt end of a trail, the sudden disappearance of a group, all point to encounters with a predator that strikes with speed and precision. Sometimes a shadow moves between the trees, leaving behind only the impression of immense weight and power. Tracks appear where none should be, deep, deliberate, and unclaimed by any known beast. The size and depth of these prints suggest a creature of formidable strength, one that moves with purpose and confidence. The other animals sense the shift. They flee, leaving behind only the faintest evidence of their passing, fur snagged on branches, the ground torn by desperate hooves, the echo of panic in the undergrowth. The marks of struggle are subtle but unmistakable. A patch of disturbed earth, a trail abruptly ending, a single feather or tuft of fur left behind. The forest itself seems to recoil, its silence a testament to the presence of something that does not belong. Even the wind seems to hesitate, as if wary of disturbing the uneasy peace. The broken branch, the subtle shift in the undergrowth, all hint at a presence that leaves the land unsettled. The mark of the predator is clearest in the aftermath. Carcasses lie where they fell, untouched by scavengers, as if the forest itself is wary of what claimed them. The wounds are fresh, the bodies left exposed, and the usual cycle of scavenging is interrupted, as if even the smallest creatures sense danger in the remains. The kills are precise, almost surgical, necks snapped with a single brutal twist, limbs torn away, not gnawed or shredded, but removed with force and intent. Unlike the ragged remains left by common predators, these wounds are clean, the violence controlled and efficient. The evidence is undeniable. The predator's strength is immense, its methods unlike any other. Where it hunts, it leaves only silence and the unmistakable signature of dominance. The broken necks and missing limbs are not the work of chance, but of overwhelming power. Limbs are found far from the bodies, as if carried away for reasons unknown. Bones are broken, not by accident, but by overwhelming force. The separation of limbs from the torso, the distance between remains, all suggest a predator that not only kills but manipulates its prey with intent. Sometimes the remains are arranged in patterns, or the choicest parts are missing, as if the predator selects its trophies with care. Bite marks on bones are deep and wide, the spacing unlike that of any known animal, and the arrangement of bones hints at a deliberate, almost ritualistic behaviour. The force required to break a deer's neck or tear away its limbs is staggering, far beyond the capability of any known animal in these woods. The torque and pressure evident in the injuries speak of a predator with unmatched physical power. No bear, no coyote, no wolf leaves such a mark. The pattern is unique, the message clear. A new apex predator has claimed this territory. The differences in wound patterns, the absence of typical feeding signs, and the sheer brutality of the kills set this hunter apart from all others. The forest's inhabitants have learned to fear it. Their absence, their silence, and the strange remains they leave behind are the only testimony to its reign. The shifting patterns of animal movement, the sudden emptiness of once crowded trails, all speak to the dominance of this mysterious force. In the end, the predator's mark is not just in the bodies it leaves behind, but in the way the forest itself changes, quieter, emptier, haunted by the presence of something vast, powerful, and unseen. The wilderness adapts, its creatures learning new patterns of caution, its silence echoing the mystery of the hunter that now rules the shadows. The Hudson Valley is a realm where the ordinary dissolves into the extraordinary, and the landscape itself seems to breathe with secrets. Here the environment is more than a backdrop. It's a living participant in the mysteries that unfold. The forests are thick with mist and shadow, the air charged with a sense of the uncanny. Every tree, every stone seems to hold a memory, an echo of something unseen. The woods become a threshold, a liminal space where worlds overlap and the rules of reality bend. Legends drift through the trees like the morning fog, their presence felt in the hush beneath the canopy. The spectral headless horseman is just one of many phantoms that haunt these woods, their stories woven into the land itself. The ground is heavy with the memories of conflict, the restless energy of the past lingering in the swirling fog. The land itself seems to mourn, its silence broken only by the whisper of wind through ancient branches. Above, the night sky stretches wide, a canvas for the unexplainable. Stars flicker, but sometimes something stranger glides silently overhead, leaving the forest below bathed in a hush of anticipation. In the darkness, massive triangular and V-shaped craft drift slowly, their lights casting surreal patterns on the forest floor. The trees stand as silent witnesses, their leaves trembling in the wake of the unknown. Deep within the woods, shadows move where no animal should tread. The silence is broken by the faintest rustlings, as if the forest itself is alive with secrets, watching and waiting. Sometimes glowing orbs drift between the trees, weaving through the branches. Their light is both inviting and unsettling, casting shifting patterns on moss and bark, hinting at presences just out of sight. These lights hover above the canopy, searching, probing, as if seeking something hidden in the gloom. The forest responds in kind, its shadows deepening, its silence growing more profound. In the heart of the night, the forest pulses with energy. A sudden brilliant blue beam erupts from the darkness, shooting skyward in utter silence, illuminating the trunks and leaves in an otherworldly glow. For a moment the woods are transformed, bathed in a radiance that feels both alien and ancient, as if a portal has opened between dimensions and the forest itself is the threshold. The question lingers in the air, heavy as the mist. Are these events mere coincidence? Or is there a hidden thread weaving them together, binding the forest, the sky, and the shadows in a single tapestry of mystery? Some believe that Bigfoot and the strange craft are linked, two faces of the same enigma. They appear and vanish in tandem, their presence marked by a shift in the air, a ripple in the fabric of the woods. Could these beings be travellers from distant worlds, or visitors from realities just beyond our perception? The forest offers no answers, only more questions, its silence deepening as the lights fade. Perhaps they slip through portals of light, emerging from the mist as fleeting shapes, half seen, half remembered, leaving only footprints and a lingering sense of wonder. In the Hudson Valley, the landscape itself seems to shift and shimmer, as if reality is thin and malleable. The hills and rivers become part of the mystery, their forms changing with every passing cloud. Ghostly forms drift through the trees, their outlines dissolving into the fog, merging with the ancient woods. The forest absorbs their presence, its silence deepening with every passing spirit. Sometimes the air vibrates with invisible energy, and the woods come alive with whispers and flickers of light. The environment itself seems to pulse, as if responding to forces beyond comprehension. Strange sounds echo through the night, voices without source, words formed from the very air, as if the forest itself is speaking in a language older than time. Across the valley, certain places pulse with energy, marked by repeated phenomena, lights, sounds and shadows that defy explanation. The land itself seems to remember, to call out, to reveal its secrets only to those who listen. Sometimes a shadow glides between the trees, trailed by a silent, drifting orb, as if the two are bound by some unseen force. The forest holds its breath, the air thick with anticipation. The presence of Bigfoot is often accompanied by a strange radiance, a sense of something more than flesh and blood. The woods seem to lean in, the mist swirling tighter, as if protecting a secret. In this place, the boundaries between Bigfoot, UFOs and ghosts fracture and blur, shattering our tidy categories. The environment itself becomes a canvas for the impossible, each phenomenon bleeding into the next. The creature moves through the undergrowth, half seen, half imagined, a living riddle in the heart of the woods. The trees close behind it, erasing all trace, as if the forest itself conspires to keep its secrets. Above, metallic shapes drift through the clouds, their presence as enigmatic as the beings below. The sky and the forest mirror each other, both filled with mysteries that defy explanation. And in the ruins and hollows, spirits linger, their forms flickering at the edge of sight. The environment absorbs their energy, the air thick with the residue of the past. The Hudson Valley is a tapestry of mysteries, each thread woven into the next, impossible to unravel. The land, the sky, and the shadows all play their part in this endless enigma. Even stranger forms appear. Dogman, a shadow among shadows, sometimes glimpsed beside the towering figure of Bigfoot. The forest accepts them all, its silence unbroken, its secrets intact. Here, myths merge and flow together, creating a landscape where the impossible is simply part of the scenery. The environment is the stage, the actor and the audience all at once. In the end, the Hudson Valley is not just a place of mystery, it is a living dreamscape where the boundaries of reality dissolve and the unknown reigns supreme. The land itself is the keeper of secrets, forever watching, forever waiting. As the sun dips behind the ancient ridges of the Catskill Mountains, the Hudson Valley is transformed. Long shadows stretch across the endless forests, and the land is cloaked in a gentle golden haze. But beneath this tranquil beauty, the valley harbours secrets that defy explanation, mysteries woven into the very fabric of nature itself. In the twilight hour, the air thickens with anticipation. The mists roll in, swirling over untouched forest floors, concealing ancient boulder fields and strange circular clearings where no path leads. Here the land seems to breathe, pulsing with a life that is both familiar and utterly alien. Deep within the woods, bioluminescent fungi glow softly on fallen logs, casting an eerie light that dances across the undergrowth. Wildflowers bloom out of season, their petals dusted with frost, even as the air remains warm. Rivers eddy in unnatural patterns, reflecting colours that shift and shimmer with the fading light. The animals of the valley move with a heightened awareness. Flocks of birds wheel in perfect unison, changing direction as if guided by an unseen force. Deer freeze at the forest's edge, their ears twitching at sounds that never reach human ears. Foxes pause mid-step, eyes fixed on shadows that flicker and vanish. In the heart of the forest, ancient trees twist their roots into impossible shapes, their bark marked by symbols no animal could carve. Stones are stacked in delicate balance, untouched by wind or paw, and animal tracks spiral in geometric patterns, circling with no clear destination. Lightning strikes the same tree again and again, leaving its bark scorched but the branches alive and green. Springs bubble up from hidden sources, their waters swirling with a strange energy, while sudden fog banks roll in, swallowing the landscape in moments. At night the valley comes alive with phenomena that defy natural law. Glowing orbs float above the forest floor, vanishing as dawn approaches. Owls with unusual plumage and eyes that seem to glow in the darkness perch silently, watching the world with ancient wisdom. Flocks of crows gather in perfect rows, their silence more unsettling than any call. Sometimes animal skeletons are found arranged in spirals, untouched by scavengers, as if placed by invisible hands. Stones hum with a faint vibration, and the air itself seems charged with a presence that cannot be seen or named. The Hudson Valley is a place where the boundaries of the natural world blur, where animal behaviour hints at a deeper intelligence, and where the land itself guards its secrets with silent patience. Here, the wild reigns supreme, and the mysteries endure, untouched, unexplained, and waiting for the next dawn. In the hush of the Hudson Valley's night, a different kind of presence stirs, one that belongs wholly to the wild unseen. No human footsteps disturb the leaf-littered ground. Only the wild itself moves here, treading softly over moss and ancient roots. Deep within the tangled undergrowth, the animals of the valley behave as if answering to ancient secret rhythms. Small mammals scurry beneath ferns, their movements barely audible beneath the chorus of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. Deer freeze mid-step, their ears swivelling to catch sounds that have no source, perhaps the faint snap of a twig or the whisper of fur brushing against bark. Birds fall silent in the canopy, their eyes wide, as if sensing something unseen gliding through the shadows. The air is thick with anticipation, every feather ruffled by the possibility of a hidden watcher. Across the forest floor, subtle patterns emerge, nests built in impossible shapes, woven with twigs and moss in spirals and knots that defy explanation. Trails that double back on themselves, winding through the undergrowth as if the creatures that made them were evading something that cannot be seen. Paw prints appear overnight and vanish by dawn, their shapes unfamiliar, some too large, others with too many toes, all hinting at the presence of elusive beings. Foxes circle the same spot, noses lifted, alert to scents that drift on the cool air but leave no trace behind. Their eyes dart, reflecting the moonlight, searching for the source of a presence that remains just out of reach. Owls glide low between the trees, their wings silent, their heads turning sharply towards disturbances that cannot be seen. Sometimes their talons clutch at the air, grasping for prey that vanishes before it is ever revealed. Sometimes a chorus of distant howls rises, echoing through the hollows, long mournful notes that seem to call to something deeper in the woods. The howls stop as suddenly as they began, leaving a silence so complete it hums in the ears, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. Squirrels chatter in alarm, tails flicking, then scatter into the thickest branches, their tiny hearts pounding with the instinctive knowledge of something watching from below. They peer down at a forest floor that seems to shift and ripple with invisible movement, shadows sliding between the roots and stones. In the streams, fish dart away from unseen ripples, as if shadowed by something just beneath the surface. Perhaps a long, sinuous form, or the brush of a tail that leaves no mark. As mists curl along the forest floor, shapes flicker at the edge of vision, animal forms, but never quite familiar. Some seem to blend with the fog, their outlines dissolving before they can be named. Eyes gleam in the darkness, reflecting a light that comes from nowhere. Some are set too high, others too low, and some blink in patterns that no known creature makes. The woods pulse with the language of rustles, snaps and distant cries that weave together in patterns beyond human understanding. Sometimes a low, throaty growl or a high-pitched trill echoes, belonging to no animal ever seen. Here the animals move according to rules unwritten and unknown, their paths crossing and diverging in a silent choreography dictated by the wild unseen. Their behaviours shaped by forces as old as the land itself, by the memory of predators long vanished, and the presence of things that have never been named. The wild unseen drifts through the valley, a silent current that stirs the leaves and bends the grass, leaving only questions in its wake. In the absence of people, the creatures of the forest become both witnesses and participants in the endless dance of mystery. They sense what cannot be seen and move in harmony with the unknown. The Hudson Valley breathes with untold life, its secrets held not just in shadow and mist, but in the silent, watchful eyes of the animals who call it home. In every rustle, every glint of eyes in the darkness, the wild unseen endures, forever hidden, forever shaping the untouched landscapes of the valley. In the heart of the Hudson Valley, the forest speaks in a language older than memory, a silent code woven into the land, decipherable only by those who listen with more than ears. The air itself becomes a messenger. At times it thickens with a sudden electric charge, causing the leaves to tremble and the moss to bristle, as if the forest is bracing for something unseen. Wisps of fog spiral and twist, moving against the wind's direction, curling around ancient trunks and vanishing into the undergrowth. These eddies seem to follow invisible paths, as if guided by a force that only the land understands. As dusk falls, strange lights flicker low between the trees. Soft glows that hover just above the moss, pulsing in rhythm with the earth's quiet heartbeat. Sometimes these lights drift in patterns, tracing the outlines of old animal trails or gathering in silent clusters where the forest is thickest. Overhead, clouds twist into impossible shapes, casting shadows that crawl across the ground. These shadows move with a purpose, shifting and reforming in silence, sometimes startling a flock of birds into sudden flight, or causing a deer to freeze, ears pricked to the sky. Rain falls in narrow bands, drenching one patch of forest while leaving another bone dry only feet away. In these moments animals gather at the edges of the rain, foxes and deer pausing to drink from the sudden pools, their coats glistening in the shifting light. Winds rise without warning, swirling leaves into miniature tornadoes that vanish as quickly as they appear. Squirrels and birds scatter, startled by the sudden movement, while the undergrowth rustles with the passage of unseen creatures, responding to the forest's shifting mood. Sometimes the river's surface shivers, sending ripples in all directions, though no stone or animal breaks its calm. Fish dart beneath the surface, their movements erratic, as if sensing a disturbance that cannot be seen. In winter, patches of ice form in perfect circles, untouched by the snow that blankets everything else. Waterfowl avoid these circles, gliding around their edges, while foxes and deer step carefully, wary of the unnatural perfection. The soil pulses with warmth on the coldest nights, melting frost in strange winding patterns that snake through the undergrowth. Mice and voles follow these warm trails, seeking shelter in the unexpected heat, while owls watch from above, attuned to the shifting energy below. Through it all, the valley's lights persist, glimmers that dart across meadows, linger above still ponds, and vanish when watched too closely. Frogs fall silent as the lights pass, and insects change their song, as if acknowledging the presence of something extraordinary. The animals, ever alert, sense these changes. Deer pause mid-step, noses twitching at the scent of ozone. Foxes circle the edges of strange patterns in the grass, and birds fall silent, their eyes fixed on the shifting shadows. No footprints disturb the forest floor. The signs are subtle. An undisturbed path, a patch of moss pressed flat where a creature rested, a sudden hush that falls over the woods. The phenomena come and go, leaving only traces for the observant. A patch of scorched grass, a tree limb twisted in a way no wind could manage, a lingering taste of ozone in the air. Sometimes a nest is abandoned, or a den is left empty, as if the animals themselves are wary of what lingers. The Hudson Valley's mysteries are not always creatures or legends, but the silent messages of the land itself, signals written in wind, water and light, hinting at a world deeper, stranger and more alive than any eye can see. Here, nature's anomalies are the valley's true language, spoken in the hush between heartbeats and the flicker of a distant, silent signal. In the quiet dawn, the forest floor becomes a canvas for secrets. Dew clings to every blade of grass, revealing shapes pressed into the soft earth. Footprints too large, too deep, or oddly shaped for any known creature. The moss holds the impressions long after the maker has vanished, each print a puzzle piece in the valley's silent story. Foxes approach these strange tracks with caution, circling at a distance, their tails twitching. Squirrels pause mid-climb, noses quivering, before darting away from the unfamiliar scent that lingers in the air. Birds, usually bold at sunrise, remain silent in the branches above, their eyes fixed on the patterns below. Every so often the tracks lead to a shallow pool where the water's surface has been disturbed in wide, concentric ripples. Frogs linger at the edge, hesitant to leap in, while fish scatter at the faintest shadow cast by the overhanging leaves. The trail sometimes vanishes at the riverbank, as if the maker simply melted into the current. In the undergrowth, tufts of fur are snagged on brambles, thick, coarse and unfamiliar. The local animals avoid these spots, skirting wide arcs around the evidence as if sensing an unspoken warning. Even the insects change their patterns, leaving a patch of flattened grass undisturbed and silent. The tracks reappear in the strangest places, pressed into the mud beneath a fallen log, or circling a patch of scorched earth where nothing grows. Occasionally, a perfect circle of flattened ferns marks the end of the trail, as if something immense paused and then vanished without a trace. As the sun rises higher, the dew evaporates and the evidence fades. But for those who watch closely, the valley offers fleeting glimpses, a bent branch, a patch of disturbed moss, the hush that falls as animals retreat. The mystery remains etched into the earth, waiting for the next silent witness to find its marks. In the Hudson Valley, the enigma of the tracks is another language of the wild, one that speaks of visitors unseen and of stories written in footprints that lead into the unknown. As twilight settles over the Hudson Valley, the forest becomes a concert hall of cryptic sounds. Soft rustlings ripple through the undergrowth, and the air vibrates with calls that defy easy explanation. Somewhere in the distance, a low, resonant howl echoes between the trees, deeper than any coyote too drawn out for a fox, its origin masked by the thickening dusk. Closer, a series of rhythmic knocks, like wood striking wood, reverberate through the trunks, sometimes answered by another, farther away. The wind carries these patterns, weaving them into a language that no human has deciphered. Owls call from their hidden perches, their hoots mingling with the shrill cries of unseen creatures, but every so often a sound emerges that doesn't match any known bird or beast. In the canopy, branches shiver as something heavy moves above, unseen but unmistakable. Leaves rustle and fall, landing softly on the moss below. The animals of the valley react in subtle ways. Deer freeze mid-step, ears swivelling, raccoons pause, noses lifted, listening for clues. Even the insects fall silent after one of these strange calls, as if the entire forest is holding its breath. Some sounds are fleeting, a guttural grunt, a sharp bark, or a series of melodic whistles that fade as quickly as they begin. Each one is absorbed by the dense foliage, leaving only a lingering sense of curiosity and caution. The forest itself seems to listen, the ancient trees standing watch as the mysteries unfold in the shadows. No human footsteps disturb this symphony, only the wild, and whatever else might dwell here, hidden from sight, but not from sound. In the Hudson Valley, the night is alive with voices that hint at stories untold, inviting those who listen to wonder what might be calling out from the heart of the wild. In the depths of the Hudson Valley, not every mystery is born of legend. Sometimes the wild itself becomes a master illusionist. Deer, moving silently through the brush, can cast fleeting shadows that appear almost upright and human. The sudden crash of a startled bear, vanishing through dense undergrowth, leaves behind broken branches and deep prints, clues that can easily be mistaken for something far larger. As wind sweeps through the treetops, it can set whole sections of forest swaying, creating the illusion of movement where there is none. Fallen logs, moss-covered and half-buried, take on uncanny shapes in the dimming light, while mist rising from the river bends the outlines of trees and rocks, conjuring phantom figures that seem to shift and breathe. The valley is also home to a chorus of animal calls, foxes screaming in the night, owls hooting in echoing patterns, and the bark of a distant coyote. These sounds can travel for miles, distorting with the landscape and creating eerie echoes that defy easy identification. Even the weather conspires. Thunderstorms roll across the hills, their rumbles bouncing between cliffs, mimicking the heavy footfalls of a giant. Sometimes patches of fog reflect moonlight in strange ways, making footprints seem to appear and disappear across soft ground. The interplay of light and shadow, wind and water, earth and sky, all collaborate to produce sights and sounds that challenge the senses. In the Hudson Valley, nature is both stage and performer, crafting illusions that can fool even the most experienced observer. Here, the line between the real and the imagined blurs, reminding us that the wild is full of mysteries, some explained, others forever just out of reach.